All right, here we are, the final chapter of our PMP EVM Mastery Explainer. We've gone through the formulas, the tricky scenarios, all of it. And now we bring it all home. Think of this as more than just a last-minute review. No, this is the blueprint, the guide that's going to take all that powerful knowledge from the exam room and help you make a real, tangible impact in the boardroom.
So, what's our game plan for today? Well, I like to call it the practitioner's journey. You can see it laid out right here. We're going to tackle this in 3 acts. First up, in Act 1, we're locking down the mechanics, making absolutely sure those formulas are just second nature to you. Then we'll shift gears into Act 2, the tactics. This is where we get smart about the exam itself, dissecting all those common traps and learning a system to crush those super long questions. And finally, we'll wrap up with Act 3, the executive. This is the big one, where we connect passing the exam to actually leading with impact in the real world. Sound good? Let's dive in.
Okay, let's jump right into Act 1, the mechanics. Look, this is all about building that rock-solid foundation. And why is that so important? Because honestly, without a deep, intuitive grasp of these core formulas and what they're really telling you, none of the fancy tactics we'll talk about later are going to stick. This is the bedrock of your confidence on exam day.
You know, what I love about this slide is how it simplifies everything into 2 key questions about your project's health. Over on the left, you've got your raw dollar variances, SV and CV. These give you the cold, hard number. Are we ahead or behind, and by how many dollars? But then, look to the right. Those are your efficiency indices, SPI and CPI. These don't just tell you what happened, they tell you how it's happening. How efficiently are you actually using your time and your money? It's like this. One tells you the size of the hole in the boat. The other tells you how fast it's leaking. You absolutely need both to paint the full picture for your stakeholders.
Okay, pay close attention because this slide right here, this is the absolute heart of EVM diagnostics. It all boils down to that one critical question at the top. What is the root cause of the variance? Seriously, your answer to that single question changes everything about your forecast. So if the issue was a one-time thing, a fluke that's already been fixed, you go with the atypical formula. But if that problem is systemic, if it's a nagging issue that's probably going to continue, you've got to be honest and use the typical formula, which assumes the future will look a lot like the past. And then, of course, if the whole original plan is just wrong, well, you've got to start from scratch with a brand new bottom-up estimate. See? Choosing the right formula isn't just about plugging in numbers, it's about exercising real project management judgment.
Look, on the exam, speed and confidence are everything. You need some mental shortcuts, some brain hacks to keep you moving. So let's lock in these 4 right now. First one, EV is first. Just look at your main formulas. Earn value, EV, always comes first. That simple rule will stop you from ever mixing them up under pressure. Easy enough, right? Next, negative equals bad. If you calculate a variance and it's a negative number, stop. You're bleeding time or you're bleeding money. It's a universal uh-oh sign. Then we have greater than 1 equals good. For your indices, CPI and SPI, anything over 1.0 means you're rocking it, you're performing efficiently. And last but not least, my absolute favorite, TCPI greater than 1 equals danger. Why? Because this tells you the performance you need to hit from now on is harder than what you originally planned. It's your project's early warning system screaming that the hill just got a whole lot steeper.
All right, so our foundation is solid, the mechanics are locked in. Now let's level up and move into Act 2, the tactics. This is all about taking that raw knowledge and learning how to apply it when the pressure is on, specifically how to navigate the traps and the tricky question formats that you are absolutely guaranteed to see on the PMP exam.
Let's talk about some of the hazard zones you're going to run into on the exam. You have to remember, this test isn't just about math. It's designed to see if you think like a leader, not a passive observer. So you'll see a lot of tempting answer choices like do nothing or wait and see. That's almost always a trap. The mindset PMI wants is action is required. Here's another classic that trips up so many people. An answer that says crash the schedule when your CPI is already tanking. Think about it. How can you crash, which means spending more money, when you're already over budget? The proactive leadership solution is to check your CPI first. It's a perfect example of what they're looking for. You analyze the data and then you act with good judgment.
Okay, you know those monster, paragraph-long EVM questions, the ones that make your heart sink a little? Don't panic. You're going to use this 5-step technique as your secret weapon. Step 1. Before you read anything else, read the very last sentence first. Find out what they're actually asking for. That's your target. Step 2. Do a quick calculation of the project's current status. Get your SPI and CPI. Know where you stand. Step 3. Now scan the big block of text for keywords about the root cause. Are they describing a one-time fluke or an ongoing disaster? Step 4. Based on that, you can now confidently select the right formula. And finally, Step 5. Choose the action. Pick the answer that sounds like a proactive, data-driven leader. It's a system, and it works every time. It just cuts straight through all that noise.
And that brings us to our final and, I think, most important act, the executive. Because let's be real, earning your PMP certification, that's just the start. That's the ticket to the game. The real goal is to take these skills and become a truly effective leader who drives real, measurable business results. So let's talk about how we make that leap. This slide, honestly, is so crucial because this is where we see the leap from being a manager to being a leader. On the left, you've got the exam mindset. It's about reporting raw numbers, spitting out acronyms like CPI and SPI, and looking at a single snapshot in time. And hey, that'll get you the certification. But look over on the right. That's the executive mindset. This is where you don't just give data. You provide context. You tell a story, you offer recommendations. You drop the project management jargon and start speaking the language of business value. You're not just looking at today, you're looking at cumulative trends to spot trouble coming a mile away. And maybe most importantly, you are ruthlessly honest with your stakeholders. Remember this, bad news delivered early is infinitely better than bad news delivered late. This is how you build trust. This is how you become a strategic partner.
So, after all of that, it comes down to this, your final mandate. Simply put, trust your preparation.
Listen to me. You now get earned value management, from the basic math all the way to advanced risk analysis. This is, without a doubt, one of the most feared topics on the PMP exam, and you've got this. You've mastered it. Always remember, the PMP isn't a memory test, it's a judgment test. So trust the work you've put in and trust these frameworks to guide you.
Learning reinforcement, PMP EVM capstone math, tactics, and leadership.
You've mastered the formulas, analyzed the complex scenarios, and integrated risk into your forecasts. However, the PMP exam presents situational variables where formulas alone cannot provide the answer. Relying strictly on rote memorization often leaves candidates unable to resolve the conflicting data points found in paragraph-long scenarios. The PMI evaluates your ability to make executive decisions when these numbers reveal a project in distress. They test your judgment, specifically how you apply arithmetic to solve a leadership crisis. Today, we consolidate the system. We will map the ultimate EVM formula quicksheet and the specific memory mnemonics required to execute them under pressure. We will identify the specific cognitive traps the PMI sets to exploit passive management and neutralize them. Finally, we will deploy a 5-step diagnostic engine designed to cut through multivariable scenarios in under a minute. Connecting the mathematical precision with these exam tactics allows you to move past the role of a test taker and operate as a project leader. This present status grid is your mathematical foundation. SV and CV measure raw dollar variance, the exact money or time away from the plan. SPI and CPI measure efficiency ratios. Notice earned value leads every equation. Remember, EV is first to avoid writing formulas backward. To keep your constraints clear, remember that SPI is schedule and CPI is cost. This keeps time and money isolated in your mental model. When interpreting these results, any negative value in SV or CV indicates a loss. A negative variance means the project is actively consuming resources without producing the planned value. For the indices, a result greater than 1.0 indicates high efficiency. A CPI of 1.2 means the project is generating 20 cents of additional value for every dollar invested. Next, forecast the estimate at completion by diagnosing the variance. For one-time anomalies, use the atypical branch, assuming original plans resume. For systemic issues, use the typical branch, assuming current efficiency continues. If the original plan is invalid, use flawed baseline, requiring a bottom-up estimate. To determine the final projected budget delta, calculate your variance at completion by subtracting your EAC from the original budget at completion. Finally, use the T-Complete Performance Index, or TCPI. This defines the exact performance level required for the team to achieve a specific target, like the original budget. A TCPI greater than 1.0 is a warning. It indicates the team must work at a higher efficiency rate than originally planned just to stay on budget. Memorizing these formulas is only the first step. Success on the exam requires the situational awareness to identify which branch of the tree the scenario is describing. The exam environment is specifically designed to identify candidates who lack a proactive management style. Avoid the passive trap. When a project shows negative variances, options like wait and see or continue to monitor are incorrect. Instead, proactive leadership is the required response. The resource trap often tempts you to crash the schedule to recover time. However, if your CPI is below 1.0, the project lacks the budget to support the additional costs of crashing. The baseline trap occurs when a scope change is formally approved. Using your old EAC metrics after a baseline has been officially updated will result in an incorrect answer. Never ignore the subtle wording in the situational text. 1 or 2 words will often dictate whether you should treat a variance as a typical ongoing problem or an atypical event. Falling for these traps indicates a failure of judgment. Your mathematical proficiency must be guided by a decisive, active leadership posture. To solve dense scenario questions without losing time, use a rigid diagnostic framework. Step 1. Read the last sentence first. Isolating the actual question prevents the test taker from being distracted by the irrelevant data points often packed into the beginning of the paragraph. Step 2. Establish current status by calculating SV, CV, SPI, and CPI. Step 3. Scan text for atypical or typical root causes. Step 4. Select the forecasting formula corresponding to that root cause. Step 5. Select the proactive management action aligned with the PMI mindset. This engine ensures the math aligns with the situation, stripping away the complexity of the question and saving critical seconds. In a professional environment, earned value management becomes a strategic tool for corporate navigation rather than a reporting requirement. When communicating with executive stakeholders, remove the academic acronyms. Board members are focused on the implications of the data, not the terminology. Translate your variance numbers into plain business language. Discuss how these figures impact the schedule, the remaining budget, and the overall project risk. Data alone is insufficient for leadership. Every report you present must be accompanied by a clear, actionable recommendation based on that data. This chart highlights the importance of cumulative trends. A single positive snapshot can be misleading. You must analyze the trajectory of the project over time to provide accurate early warnings. Transparency is a strategic mandate. Delivering bad news early allows an organization to adapt. Delaying that news removes their ability to respond effectively. This mastery of EVM, integrating the math with situational tactics, fulfills the rigorous expectations of the PMP standard.